Alright guys, what's happening? I want to make this video because a lot of my clients, you know what happens is they hit a wall when it comes to fasting. Yeah, they hit a wall, you know what I mean? And the wall doesn't exist. One thing that we do right in the beginning when I'm teaching them, I'm teaching them the nature of reality. I call it Gnosticism because when you go back to the ancient times, when you go back to Egypt, and when you go back to Greece, and when you go back to ancient China, ancient India, ancient Arab countries, ancient times, right? You go back to all these countries, when Tartaria was still around and before the elites, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers all destroyed all of these places and completely eliminated the race and then reset the timeline. Well, I went on right tangent then, didn't I? Anyway, going back to fasting. People really don't know who they are. A huge problem why they struggle with fasting and they struggle with eating correctly. People really have no idea who they are. People are under the understanding they believe, which is a lie. The act of believing is a lie. I teach people, I don't teach them anything. I show them how to know. Okay, now going back to fasting because I'm going on multiple tangents here, aren't I? The reason that they struggle is because they identify with the mind. Okay? Hear me out now. They identify with the mind. Now, this is very, very, very dangerous. What's happening is they don't know who they are, so they are hearing those voices in their head while they're fasting, and, they start out in the beginning and they say, I'm going to get lean, I'm going to get shredded, I'm going to get ripped. They start out in the beginning and everything's great, but what happens is they move their attention from where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be in this chakra right here. This is who you are. They move their attention to the mind, and that's where everything fails, because the mind is the matrix mainframe. That's exactly what it is, when you get down to it, when you get down to the nitty-gritty side of it. The mind is the matrix mainframe. It's a synthetically designed radio. That's what it is, And that radio has one job. It has one job: to infinitely receive frequencies, vibrations, because the matrix, this illusory 3D reality that we are living in right now, is completely illusory. I teach them the reason that you're failing is because you're identifying with the mind. The mind has a foundation, okay? And we don't call it the mind in my school. We don't call it the mind. We call it the matrix mainframe. It's built on things that don't exist. Fear, ego, and illusion. That's what it's built on. Thoughts are nothing more than illusions. That's the key. That's the key. When you know that thoughts are nothing more than illusions, there's nothing can stop you. The second thing, you have to realize first of all that thoughts are illusions. The second thing is you have to realize that imaginations are illusions. You have to realize that emotions are illusions, and so is the body. These four things are all illusory. There's other things now, and I call them thought prisons. That's what people are in. People are in so many thought prisons, it's not even funny. They don't know who they are. They have no idea who they are, and it's absolutely ridiculous. They really have no idea who they are. Like your name, for example, okay, like I'm just going to make one up now, might be Daniel James. But you're not Daniel James. Daniel James are two words that are put together. They're called names. There are two words that your parents have decided and then scribbled on a piece of paper, but it's not you. It's not who you are. We've been taught and we've been told and we've been indoctrinated from a young age to focus our attention on such a low level, like, wow, I'm just Daniel James. That's all I am. I'm just Daniel James. I'm the two words put together, scribbled on a piece of paper. My mum and dad scribbled those names on a piece of paper, and that's who I am. You know, a corpse, really. That's what you know, a corporation, because that's going into a little bit of more about metaphysics. But anyway, you're not your name. You're not your body. You're not your emotions, and you're not your imaginations, and you're not the mind. Now what's happening is, this is a great exercise, this is the first thing that we do, right? Now you are the awareness. Here, you're here. This is where you are. You're the infinite awareness. You're the divine spark, the universal spark, the eternal flame, the infinite spark. You are the infinite awareness and the immortal consciousness. That's who you are. You are everything that there is and was and ever will be. Just like how David Icke says it. You are everything and nothing. You are everyone and no one. You are the universe. You are not a human being experiencing the universe. You are the universe having a temporary human experience. And they're not going to tell you that, because what they want to do is, you know, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Peabodys and the Carnegies and the Marxes and the Pikes and the, you know, the communists, the Bolsheviks, the Jesuits, you know, they've got so many different names now. They don't want you to realize your true power. So what happens is, I do this exercise, you take a step back, and now the mind, hypothetically speaking, let's just say my fist is the mind. So now what happens is, this is who I am, okay, this is who you are. Now the mind, now what you do is you observe how thoughts are nothing more. They are exactly just like clouds passing over the sky. That's all they are. Clouds passing over the sky. That's it. And they're going and they're going and going. And do you know what happens when you're in this position and you move back and you realize who you are? You realize that you're infinite awareness and infinite consciousness, and death is just an illusion as well. It's just, death is nothing more than leveling up in the video game. That's all that death is. It's just you leveling up. So clouds passing over the sky, you start to realize, you become very, very grounded, you become very, very still. That's the word, that's the key word there. You become infinitely still. You become infinitely aware. You become who you are, the infinity, the immortal. And when you actually, just going a little bit on another tangent now, when you actually read all these ancient sacred books, people used to live to like 1,000, 2,000 years old. And nobody knows this. Like, you know, you just read the ancient texts and you like people dying at 2,000, 1,000 years old. You know what I mean? Because they were doing it, you know, all these ancient sacred practices, you know what I mean? Like, you know, nobody used to do any gooning. Nobody used to nut off and stuff like that. Like, how many men are nutting off now? Do you know what I mean? Like, and the abstinence and the abstaining from sexual practices and semen retention, that's another thing that we teach in my school. We teach how to master semen retention and how to move the energy up, to actually move it, to actually activate the energy and move it up the spine. You know what I mean? And there's lots of different techniques like that. But now going back to the mind. So you're not the mind. The mind is completely separate to you. And that's what we do when you understand that you are everything and nothing. You are the immortal, the infinite awareness and the immortal consciousness. That's who you are. Everything completely changes. And you realize that you are an infinite, immortal being having an experience as a human being. You know what I mean? And you move your point of attention here. You move your point of attention here to the middle chakra. when you go everywhere to all the ancient tribes, go to every single one, they're all going to say the same thing. They're all going to say the same thing. The Tibetans, the Buddhists, the Taoists, the Indians, the Hindus, the Chinese, the Greeks, they said the most important chakra is the one in the middle. That's the most important one. This is the one that opens the intuition. The intuition is innate knowing. Just how David Icke puts it, he puts it so well in his books. The heart knows that everything is an illusion. This is the key. This is everything. It knows that this 3D, three-dimensional holographic reality is a complete illusion. Thoughts are illusion. Feelings are an illusion. Instincts are an illusion. The body's an illusion. It knows that. It completely 100% knows that. When this is open, you are pulling in the knowing. I was going to say knowledge, but it's really the knowing. You become the all-knowing and the all-wise, the all-immortal being, the infinite being. And then, going back to fasting now, you realize that the infinite doesn't need to eat. You know, you only need one meal a day. You know what I mean? And all you have to do is transmute your point of attention, because everybody's point of attention's here in the intellect. Now, they're in the intellect, but what's the intellect's highest peak performance ability? Thinking. That's all the intellect can do. That's the highest capability of the intellect. And why does it think? Because it doesn't know. That's exactly why it thinks. That's its peak. That's the highest thing that it can do. The highest thing that it can do. And just think about it. The brain lies all the time. It lies all the time. It's decoding. What it's doing is it's decoding this waveform, vibrational frequency reality, because everything is waveform. It looks exactly like how when you're by the ocean and you drop two pebbles, and then it creates like the ripple, and those ripples interfere with each other. That's what it really looks like. It's nothing more than, you know, waveform information, vibrational information, frequency information. And the brain is the biggest liar, because what the brain does, and the brain, I can go into a whole another video about how the brain's been created, you know what I mean? Like, it's just absolutely insane. Like, the brain's been created. They've created the brain. That's what they've done. They've created the brain. They haven't, the brain, I don't even, the brain is a very, very synthetic thing, you see, because it stops us from seeing reality as it is. You see, because infinity exists within the space that we are sat in. Like this space right now that we are sat in, this, you know, solid reality. They said the whole world's solid, but it's made up of atoms. And when you study the atom, when you actually study the atom, you realize that the electron and the nucleus has no solidity. It has no solidity. It makes perfect sense. This whole world is completely illusory. Anyway, going back to the brain and fasting. I just want to end the fasting bit. When it comes to fasting, that is the number one thing that stops people from, you know, getting lean and getting ripped. And by the way, if anybody wants to get lean and ripped, you should 100% join my school. The thing that's stopping them from getting ripped and lean is they are transmuting their attention with the mind. They're identifying with the mind. The mind isn't you. The mind is a separate. We'll just push that away for now. We'll just push that away, because all the mind is polarity. It's good, bad, right, wrong. It's complete. It's going like that. It's like a pendulum. It's like a pendulum. It's going back and forth, and people are going back and forth all the time. They're always going back and forth, you know. But when you transmute your attention out of there to here, all that exists here is the truth. Infinite love is the only truth, and everything else is an illusion. Okay, I just want to say that again. Infinite love is the only truth. Infinite love is the only truth, and everything else is an illusion. Death is an illusion. Time is an illusion. Space is an illusion. Distance is an illusion. The speed of light is an illusion. Astrology is an illusion. Numerology is an illusion. They're beautiful things though. They're nice things to enjoy. And I'm not saying like astrology and stuff like that is bad, or numerology is bad, or religion's bad. There's beautiful things about all of those things, and they're beautiful things to enjoy and stuff like that. But they're all fake. They don't exist. The tarot readings and stuff like that, all illusory. And you know what I mean? This whole world is completely holographic. Now, what I was talking about the brain, because I think this is really important as well, just going back to the brain. Now, everything is waveform information. That's what everything is. It's waveform information and vibrational information and frequency information. When you saw, there's actually pictures, you know, according to not mainstream science, because they're never going to tell you this, but like scientists, like whistleblowers and stuff like that, have released pictures of how reality really looks. And it's, goodness me, it's so interesting. It just looks like ripples, like waveform. That's why it's called waveform, because it looks like ripples, like interfering with each other. And then they're called interference patterns, which create a vibration. The vibration creates a frequency. And what happens is the brain, that information goes through the eyes. You don't see it with the eyes, you see it with the brain. There's a thing here, it's called the visual cortex. It's called the visual cortex. That's what you see with the brain. Decodes all of that information. It decodes waveform, vibrational and frequency information. You don't see reality as it is. You don't see infinity as it is. You see a fraction of it. It's a fraction of 0.005% of the universe. It's not 0.005. That's not what you're seeing. You're seeing a fraction of that. It's absolutely ridiculous. You know what I mean? And people are like, oh, you know, like if that existed, I'd see it. Well, you can't really see anything, can you, mate? You know, but going back to the brain, it decodes all this waveform frequency information, right? It decodes it electrically. And then goes to the visual cortex. It decodes it in 3D. Now, what you are seeing, you're seeing me, you know, in a physical form, which is nothing more than dense vibration slowed down. You're seeing the body, which is just an antenna, and you're seeing this, you know, this illusory 3D reality, you know what I mean? And that's what the brain's doing. Its job is to decode information electrically so the visual cortex can turn it into 3D, so you can see everything in 3D and you can interact with this reality now. Like, this wall is a solid. It's not a solid, it's illusory. Like, nothing is a solid, but it is decoding the information electrically. The Wi-Fi, well, because it's akin to a Wi-Fi field and a laptop. It's a great example that David Icke gave. It's what we are seeing with our eyes, all of this stuff that we're seeing right now, this three-dimensional reality, none of it's actually happening outside. None of it's happening outside. It's happening in the brain. That's where it's happening. It's happening inside the brain. The brain decodes the information electrically, and the screen is in your head. This is all, everything that I'm looking at with the brain is inside the head. None of it is outside. Everything is an internal. Everything is a reflection of the internal. Everything, absolutely everything. That's where you get the ancient esoteric quote from, as above, so below. So yeah, guys, I just had some thoughts, you know, and I thought it'd be nice to put it on a video. And you know, anybody out there who wants to start fasting and start, you know, expanding their awareness, anybody who wants to do anything like that, just let me know. And you know what I mean? I'd love to coach you. I'd love to teach you everything about the nature of reality. Well, you know, everything that I know anyway. And I'd love to teach you about that and work with you one-to-one, and we can spiritually connect and stuff like that. And, you know, being lean and being, you know, being in good shape and stuff like that is very, very important. And yeah, I just hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.